morning, good afternoon, good evening. Zimbabwe is a failed state. And the number one reason for it is that for the last 45 years since the country's independence, we've been stuck with a corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical canopy of dictatorship, which, it must be said, would have been history by now if the MDC CCC had not sold out. I've tried to come to discuss this issue from various points of view. On some occasions, I've referred to Ian Smith, what he said, and tried to explain our situation from there. On other occasions, I've taken it from what the late Edson Shobo said. They're all saying the same thing, that as a people, we've got serious shortcomings. And those shortcomings are explained by what the Greeks said 2,500 years ago. The Greeks said there are three types of people in this world: the idiot, the tribesman, and the citizen. And my argument is Zimbabwe is a failed state because as a people, we have failed to function above the tribesman mentality level. We have never attained the citizen level. I'd like to play for you today this video clip. And I think this gentleman explains what I'm trying to say a lot better than I could. It's worth listening to.
You know, it is said that there are always three kinds of people in any given society. This threefold distinction has been noted and made by notable sociologists and public intellectuals. But this threefold distinction of the three kinds of people, it was first identified and first stated by the supporters and founders of democracy in ancient Greece. For the Greek people, the people who in many ways gave us the modern civilized world, for the Greek people, the first kind of people in any given society are the idiots. For the Greeks, the idiot is not necessarily someone who is mentally deficient. Rather, for ancient Greek people, the idiot, they said, is someone who is a totally private person, a totally self-centered person, and a totally selfish person. They called him the idiot. The idiot, he is always out for his personal gain and his personal interests. He does not have a public philosophy. He has no knowledge, no skill, no character, and no virtues to be able to live and to be able to contribute in a flourishing society and community. He's all out for his personal pleasures and for his personal treasures. And the Greeks said that the idiot was just an upgraded barbarian. The first kind of person, the idiot. But the Greeks also said that there is a second kind of people in any given society. And the Greeks called these people the tribes people. When we say tribes people, we don't necessarily mean the fact of belonging to a certain tribe, which is a good thing. But when they use the word tribes people, the Greeks meant a tribal and a tribalistic mentality. And the Greeks said that tribes people are those people who are not able to think beyond their small tribe or their small groups. For tribes people, their primary allegiance, their only allegiance, and their ultimate allegiance is to their tribe. Their tribe is their God, and their religion is tribalism. And tribes people, the Greeks said, are always afraid of things that are different, that are a little alien to them. They are always suspicious and fearful. And they always dealt with different people and difficult situations with intimidation, with force, and with violence. And the Greeks also said that the ideal person for tribes people is the warrior, because tribes people are a war-making people. Their ideal is the warrior. But it was not so for the Greeks. For the Greeks, there was another kind of people, another kind of a person, and that was the ideal person. And the Greeks called this ideal person the citizen. The citizen. And here when we use the word citizen, we are not talking about legal status or political status. We are talking about the idea and the ideal of citizenship. And who is the citizen? The citizen, according to the Greeks, is someone who has the skills and the knowledge to live a public life, who is able to live a life of civility. The citizen recognizes that he or she is a member of a commonwealth and thus strives for the common good. That is the citizen. The citizen, yes, he or she knows his or her rights in a society, but he or she also knows his or her responsibilities to society. The citizen can fight for his rights, but always with an awareness of and with a respect for the rights and interests of others, of their neighbors, of the smallest of minorities, and of the worst of their enemies. And it is citizens, the Greeks said, that make up a civilized society, because citizens settle their differences with civility. So they produce a civilized society, a society that truly lives up to the meaning of the name society. Society literally means friendship and friendliness. That is the threefold distinction that the Greeks have given us. That is the choice that each and every individual, wherever he or she may be, has to make in a society.
Couldn't agree with that more. The truth of the matter is, in Zimbabwe, we have never had that luck. We can start from the kind of leaders we had to the supporters themselves. It has always been the same. If we start with the leaders themselves, when you look at ZANU-PF leaders, I think no one would dispute that neither Mugabe, Mnangagwa, or any of the ZANU-PF leadership are citizens. All they cared about is power. They believe that they've got the divine right to rule the country, and they would rather burn down the whole country than let anybody else rule. That is the mentality. And when you have got somebody like that as a leader, you know you're in trouble. Here is Mnangagwa after the 2023 elections. And we should remember here that after the 2017 military coup, he promised free, fair, and credible elections. He never delivered that. In fact, the biggest mistake that we, the people, made was to believe that a thug like him, given what he had been doing during Mugabe's time, could be a Democrat. But what is interesting here is that SADC and the AU condemned the election process as flawed. And he, in his arrogance, is turning around and saying to SADC and the AU, dismissing their report with contempt.
Vana vakatuka ZANU-PF kana ini ndonyanyisa kufara kuita zvakanaka. Ukavona vavengi vako vachikurumbidza unenge uchikanganisa. Ukavona vachiti ZANU-PF yakaipa, farai. You are doing correct things for your country. Homu takaita maelections edu kuna vamwe vaitaura zvisina musoro zvikanzi maelection anafamba zvakanaka ndezvavo.
Of course, that is nonsense. Free, fair, and credible elections are a fundamental right. It is more than a right. It is the essence of good governance. If you function as a tribesman, all you care about is that power should be monopolized by ZANU-PF, ZANU-PF supporters, ZANU-PF leadership. You don't think of the bigger picture, the country. And so for him, rigging elections is nothing. Deja vu. Those who want free and fair elections, deja vu. It is the good of the country that we're talking about here. And we're talking about people like Mnangagwa. The glory of Caesar has trumped the good of Rome, the good of the Commonwealth. And you can see that this guy will never get it. Right now, Mnangagwa, everything is being geared. Nurses for ED, teachers for ED, farmers for ED, because everything has got to be seen in the context of promoting ZANU-PF, or rather Mnangagwa, ED, retaining him in power. That has become the number one focus of the party. The party structure themselves have been corrupted and fine-tuned so that they look more at Mnangagwa's interests above that of the party, much less of the nation. This is the problem. And when we look at the opposition leadership, there hasn't been much in the form of enlightenment there. Chamisa has been lying to people. The opposition MDC-CCC were elected when the party was launched 25 years ago on the promise that they would implement the democratic reforms to dismantle the ZANU-PF dictatorship. But when you look down 25 years later, ZANU-PF is still able to blatantly rig the elections because MDC-CCC have failed to implement even one token reform, even when they had the golden opportunity to do so during the GNU. Mugabe bribed them with the trappings of high office, and they forgot about the reforms. All we have ever heard in Zimbabwe is rig the elections. What is annoying to most people is how Chamisa has lied to con his followers to participate in flawed elections, promising them that CCC is going to win big. I've plugged all the vote rigging loopholes. He even invoked the name of God. God is in it. And the people believed him. They participated in those flawed elections in their millions, giving ZANU-PF legitimacy. Here is Chamisa telling his followers that he was preparing to form the cabinet just a few days before the elections in 2023.
Makorokoto Zimbabwe, nekuti hakuna munhu anomira kana denga raronga plan. Denga raronga plan, denga harifo iri. Plan ya Mwari haifo iri. Ini ndatanga kugadzira cabinet. There is no way we are not going to form a new cabinet. There is no way we are not going to have a celebration. There is no way we are not going to have an inauguration. Let's start preparing for our inauguration. Let's start preparing for our celebration.
Of course, he was lying. Zimbabwe's election process has been so corrupted to the point where even Chamisa and his colleagues have acknowledged that the only logical thing to do is to withdraw from the elections, from those flawed elections. This is what David Coulthard himself admitted in his book, The Struggle Continues. But he also admitted in that book that the opposition have been participating in these flawed elections out of greed. So we've got a leader here in the opposition who has never risen above the tribesman mentality. And the followers themselves have not been any better. Here is the army commander speaking at a rally.
Musingadi. Ameni.
Apandakutaura sakomanda army. Shashandisa inonzi command 40.
Yes.
Yaya masapuku wariti wemusanga chazvigadzira.
Yes. Amen.
Amberina idi munangagwa pasine mandu security forces saka PC mkuru wemaudondini
There is the army commander, brainwashed to the point of utter uselessness. Can be no doubt at all that he's a tribesman. It's never reached the point of the army is there to save the nation. Here is him making it abundantly clear the army is there to save ZANU-PF, Pamberni ZANU-PF. On the other hand, on the opposition side, the opposition supporters themselves have been faithful to their own God, their leader.
Zvenyimi zita raChamisa ari kutotaura kudarika iye uyu akapawo chairmanship mumba munangagwa akapawo chairmanship asi kumbotaurwa but Chamisa kupi Chamisa rikutaurwa zita raChamisa rikutaurwa kunge zita raMwari pese munhu paakangogumbukwa munhu anoti nhai Mwari wangu munhu akangodai nhai Mwari wangu ndozvikuita zita raChamisa. raChamisa rakasimba rine power rine moto. Wakambomuhoyi wakapawo chairmanship nezuro wako makambomuwa achitaurwa harimbotaurwa kuti chairmanship but zita raChamisa rotaurwa kozi mwana weyake akazodzwa uya kuona rumwe munhu uya pagurupu kutaura zvinhu zvokupamama anenge ana hopo chimwana anongoti musoro unenge dako benzi remunhu kuita mhino nenge pombi chii ichocho neuyu mandazi anenge nhanga akazora nhangirikire inonzi chiambi mukoro uno yakaguma kuzogwa kare ambi amheni.
When you have got somebody with that kind of deep-seated mentality, tribesman mentality, personality cult mentality, you know you are in trouble. Some of these people have struggled the last 2 years to tell them that Chamisa lied to them. Has proven to be near impossible. They cannot understand, they cannot comprehend that on the one hand, Chamisa said ZANU-PF was not going to rig the elections because I plugged the vote rigging loopholes. Then the day after the voting, Chamisa himself is the one who is saying ZANU-PF rigged the elections. The very thing that he said would not happen, he's acknowledging has happened. How do you reconcile that? If he was right in saying he had plugged the vote rigging loopholes, then ZANU-PF should not have rigged the elections. Acknowledging that they have rigged the elections is per se acknowledging that he lied about plugging the vote rigging loopholes. And yet some of those people are so deeply entrenched in their mentality, in their tribesman mentality, they cannot really rise above that. They believe Chamisa is a demigod who can do no wrong. You look at the two things side by side, they cannot both be true. And yet they cannot accept that Chamisa is a liar. That is the depth of tribesman mentality. And as long as Zimbabweans fail to rise above that mentality, the country will never be a healthy and functioning democratic nation. We cannot be a nation, a bigger nation, a society, when we operate only in the small group, the tribesman mentality. You have to see the bigger picture to function in that. The nation cannot be emerged out of ZANU-PF or MDC or Triple C. The nation has got to include all other opposition parties out there, all other individuals who neither support the party nor voted for it. Explaining that to some of our people has become a serious challenge. The tragedy for Zimbabwe is it's now 45 years after independence, and we are in this the 21st century. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to redefine these three types of people from scratch. The Greeks have done it for us. You apply that model to your own case, you can see that it is true. You only have to adapt it and make it work for you. And force people to think, to see the bigger picture. And yet, that really has been proving to be a bridge too far. And that is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. Mnangagwa is counting on Chamisa to con his followers to participate in flawed 2028 elections to give Mnangagwa legitimacy. And Chamisa's followers, as long as they maintain their tribesman mentality, where to admit that Chamisa lied to them last time is unthinkable. You can only point one thing. He will lie to them again, and they will believe him. He will con them again to participate in flawed elections, and they will participate in those flawed elections. We are our own worst enemy. Unless we rise above the tribesman mentality, personality cult mentality, Zimbabwe will remain stuck as a failed nation, incapable of self-government. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.